gross, but I didn't even change out of the pants that my water broke in. I had a very unexpected delivery, I would say. Just like hoping that she got my dilation wrong and that they can just hurry up and give me the epidural.
It's either a social experiment or we're on a TV show for rich people.
Okay, hello guys, welcome back to our channel. So for those of you that have been following my channel, you will see that I'm no longer pregnant, which means that we had our baby. We had our second baby girl. She actually came on Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve baby, and we are doing our birth story today. So I obviously have watched a ton of birth stories, labor and delivery vlogs, all that good stuff. And I had in my mind like how I wanted it to go, but we had a very unexpected delivery, I would say, and we had some unexpected things that happened.
I don't know about unexpected because you were like, I'm going to the hospital tonight. Somehow you knew you were gonna give birth that night.
well,
you wanted to give birth that night.
Well, we'll start all the way at the beginning. So grab a drink, grab some popcorn, and we're gonna get into this birth story. All right, so where should we start? I think we should start at like 38 weeks, because for those of you that have been following me, I was doing like these weekly updates every time I went in for my OB appointment. So starting when I reached full term, which was like 37 weeks, I was giving little updates about like, you know, my progression, whether I had any labor symptoms, blah, blah, blah. When I went in for my 38-week appointment, the nurse checked my dilation and she said I was like 4 centimeters dilated already, which if you guys know anything about childbirth, 10 centimeters dilated is like when you're having your baby. So I was almost halfway at my 38-week appointment. My family was here over the holidays. I told, you know, my husband Joel, and everybody was like, okay, we're expecting the baby to come on the 38th week. Like, we started doing all the nesting stuff, like we got all our last minute items, and I'm like, okay, the baby must be coming this week. Well, the baby did not come on the 38th week at all, so I ended up going in for my 39-week appointment, which was on December 23rd, so the day before Christmas Eve. Because my last appointment, I had already been 4 centimeters dilated, I had been kind of on labor watch the whole entire week. We actually talked about it. We considered going into the hospital because they will admit you at like 4 or 5 centimeters dilated sometimes. So we spent the whole week just kind of like deciding whether we should go into the hospital, like what we should do. And I also was a little bit worried because my first labor with my oldest daughter was really, really fast. And they always say like the second baby comes way faster. And I already knew that I usually have fast labors. And, you know, we would have to arrange this time for childcare, take my oldest to my mom's house, all that good stuff. So we were like, should we just go in before it gets crazy? We decided that on my 39-week appointment, we would pack everything up and we would just go to the hospital straight after the appointment and just plan to go and be admitted, no matter kind of what the nurse said. We packed everything up, we dropped off Luna, my oldest daughter, at my mom's house, and we went in for the appointment. All the nurses were actually very surprised to see me there. They were like, the baby didn't come yet.
The nurse say, she's like, that baby's holding on by the
yes, the nurse,
by her toes.
Yeah, she's like, the baby's holding on by her toes. She asked me if she wanted, or if I wanted her to do a, what is it called? Membrane sweep? Yeah, a membrane sweep, which basically is like something that kickstarts your labor. And I told her, go ahead and do that because we basically were gonna go straight to the hospital after the appointment. She did that, she checked me, she's like, yeah, you're like 4 or 5 centimeters dilated, which even crazier because now it means I'm halfway to 10 centimeters just walking around like that. That entire week I had had no other signs of labor. Like I was not having contractions. I had been slowly losing my mucus plug, but it like didn't all come out or anything like that. There was just no real sign of labor, which is crazy because they were telling me that I'm already halfway to complete dilation. We did the membrane sweep, and then immediately after that, I started feeling like contractions, but they just weren't super painful. They were still really mild, so we were confused. I was like, should we even go straight to the hospital? We ended up going back to my mom's house, and we were like, let's just wait and see. But in my little like instinct, like sixth sense or whatever you want to call it, I just was like, I should go to the hospital tonight. Like I kept saying, like, we should go to the hospital tonight, even though I don't have these like very sure signs of labor and I'm just having mild contractions, because I'm so nervous that we're not going to make it in time if I'm already 5 centimeters dilated. So anyways, we did not go to our apartment. So we picked up our daughter, we came back to our apartment. I remember we put her down to sleep, and then I was doing some like labor inducing stuff. We did some other labor inducing stuff. You know what I'm talking about. Then I went to the bathroom and my mucus plug came out, and almost immediately after I got out of the bathroom, I started having like really painful and sure contractions.
Out here.
He was like out here, and I was in the bathroom, and I came out and I was like, I think we should start getting ready to go. I think that's what I told him. I was like, we should start getting ready to go.
Your mucus plug broke, and I'm like, it's all right. We're good. But then.
Wait, I was like, I think we should start getting ready to go. And then literally 2 minutes later, my water breaks, you guys.
She goes, oh my God.
I was
like,
freaking out. I was freaking out because something was just telling me that like this was about to be the fastest labor of 2021. As soon as the water breaks, I'm like, oh shit. So now at this point, Luna, we just put her down to sleep in our apartment. It's like 12:15, like in the middle of the night. It's like literally midnight. So I
call your mom.
Yeah, so we call my mom.
She's like, all right, let's go.
She's like, okay, I'm on my
got
way.
Here quick, though.
She got here super fast. Shout out to mom. And yeah, instead of us having to drive Luna like to her house, she just came up here, which was a lifesaver, because we would have had to like get her ready, like all this. I'm gonna try to insert, I think, like the one clip that we took before the delivery. Hey guys, I'm vlogging now because I don't know if I'll be able to vlog later. So I started having contractions, really intense, and then my water broke during one of them. I'm a little nervous, but
we're waiting for her mother to come, and then we're gonna head out.
my mom has to come because Luna is sleeping. So right now they're decently far apart. I would say like 5 minutes. Oh, I'm getting another one. Can you hold this? We need to hurry, but you also have to drive safely. But also we need to hurry. I just don't know.
You want to wait in the don't wait in the car. You want to wait outside?
Let's just get my mom on the phone and have her on the phone to see where
she said she's leaving the neighborhood now. She said, I don't think we should call her. She's driving. That another one's coming?
No. I forgot to press the timer for this one.
Okay.
The one.
I'm about to say that's like 1 minute in between. Want some water?
Oh wait, they're only like 3 minutes apart actually. My whole plan was to film the labor and delivery, but because
it was wild.
because the mucus plug broke and my water broke literally within like 10 minutes of each other, we were very scared that we were not going to make it to the hospital in time.
So we get in the car and I'm basically speeding.
Oh wait, one more thing. I literally didn't even change. This is really gross, but I didn't even change out of the pants that my water broke in because I was like, there's no time. Like literally I just grabbed a towel and like ran to the car.
You had black pants.
It was black pants, yeah, but still like I was literally like, no, I don't even have time like to do any of that. So yes, we get to the car. He literally is like Fast and Furious mode. Like he was like, we gotta go.
We're going quick. Will I self-incriminate if I said red lights?
We ate every single red light.
But we made sure, like, we stopped.
Yeah.
Kept going. a little bit, and then
yeah. Also, it was like 12:45 in the middle of the night, so like there was not really cars on the road or
exactly,
anything.
it was really late.
Yeah,
so.
and where we live is not like super busy or anything.
I was sort of hoping a cop saw us so he could like lead us.
I don't know if that's
Let's
what
go.
would happen. I feel like he was like speed racing. That's such a blur to me because I was like focusing on not dying in between contractions.
Nah, I was like, stay on the road. I'm like, but stay on the road. Like, it would suck to get in an accident. Imagine that. That's all I kept thinking.
So he drops me off at the front of the hospital. I literally grab like my towel and like my purse, and I go in, and there's like these 2 security guards at the front, and he's like, hey, how can we help you today? And I'm like, I'm having a baby. So I run around the corner. There's like a nurse who's like, what's going on? I'm like, my water broke like 20 minutes ago. And she starts giving me like a form to fill out. And if anyone has ever had a baby, you know how annoying it is to try to like fill out paperwork when you're literally in the middle of contractions. Like it just, I feel like that has to be changed about the hospital
That's so
system. Like they're literally asking me these like frivolous, like, what's your date of birth when I'm like having a baby. But
It's ridiculous.
yeah, so then by this time somebody sees, like takes me, like a nurse takes me to triage. He gets into the room by now. You got in there so fast, by the way.
I was running.
Did you run?
I was jogging because I'm like, she could have had the baby by now.
This is actually kind of funny. So he literally gets in like right when they're taking me into the little triage room, and the nurse gives me this like gown. She's like, you have to take everything off and put on this gown. You guys, the gown was like a piece of fabric.
I swear to God, everything is like an experiment.
A social
Like
experiment.
a social experiment. Let's see how they act.
I
with
wish
this ridiculous gown.
I wish I
How are
like
they gonna
had
put
a
it on?
picture of
It's
this
either,
gown.
It's either a social experiment or we're on a TV show for rich people that just want
Wanna
to
fuck with
laugh
us.
and fuck with us, because this gown looked like
It literally
a
did not
Jenga-
have strings. It had like
more
buttons. It was
had
like
more
buttons.
more female clips than the male clip of the buttons. It
And,
was
like,
ridiculous.
And the hilarious thing is
No
like
neck,
literally
like 3 arms.
the hilarious thing is I'm literally like trying to put it on in the middle of contractions. Like literally I'm like, we're like, oh, does it go this way? Like, does it go that way? It was terrible. And like they're not helping us at all. Like literally they like left. They're like, here, good
But
luck.
when the lady, she comes in and she giggles a little bit, and I'm like, you know what? Forget it. We got it on good.
Yeah,
we got it on. It's not
get
gonna come off.
right.
That's
So we
for
get it
sure.
on somehow, and then she's like, "Okay, sit on the bed." Once again, this is kind of a blur, but I remember telling her because I felt like they weren't moving fast enough. Like
Yeah.
honestly, the whole time. And I know it's probably like if there are any nurses on my channel, like please feel free to weigh in. Like I'm sure, like as a tactic to keep people calm, they like stay calm to a certain extent.
But they also didn't know how far we drove,
Exactly.
and how much dilated you already were.
Exactly.
So we were at a heightened level, and they were at a low level.
Right,
that
like
they
they were
shouldn't have been in.
Exactly.
I feel like we were at the right level, and they were like,
right.
"What's going on?"
Right. So I like made a comment to the nurse. I was like, just so you know, like a couple hours ago, I was 5 centimeters dilated, and like my water broke already, and I don't know what I am right now, but I think we need to hurry. I think I said like something like that.
They were like, "We have to make sure your water broke.
Yeah.
We have to make sure."
She's like,
and I'm like,
she's like, we have to make sure your water broke, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like literally the baby's about to come out right now. So then
she's going through some painful contractions.
Yeah, because
Like,
at this point, you guys, like
I felt for her, man.
Yeah, so she finally checks me and she's like 8 centimeters dilated. I remember her saying that. And 8 centimeters dilated, and you're trying to ask me questions. They started asking you questions, and thank God you started answering for me.
No, they were asking you, but I
they
was
were asking
answering
you.
for you.
Yeah.
Because it just
No.
takes energy to.
Yeah, no, I could not.
Yeah, I was like, I got you. Blah, blah.
Yeah.
And I feel like one of them was like checking to see if I'm like making you have the baby or something, because I don't know, I felt that way because she was like, can she answer or something like that.
Oh, really?
She
I
didn't
didn't
say
hear
it, but it was like she asked you again, and I'm like, I'm trying to help. And she's
Yeah.
like, and you're like, yes, or
Yeah,
something. I'm
yeah.
You happy?
Guys, the time, if I were to estimate, is probably like 120 at this point, because I know that she was born at 139.
You're like epidural.
So as soon as she told me,
Epidural.
so as soon as she tells me 8 centimeters dilated, first words out of my mouth, I'm like epidural, 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 because I know that there's a certain point that you can no longer get the epidural. And in the back of my head, I remember it being like 7 centimeters. So I'm just like hoping that she got my dilation wrong and that they can just hurry up and give me the epidural before it's too late for me to get it. So I'm like, oh, can I get the epidural? They're like, we don't do it here. Like, you have to wait till you get upstairs. And I'm like, okay, but I'm already 8 centimeters. Like, you're not trying to hurry. Like, what's going on? Anyways, finally, after what seemed like forever, they finally start wheeling me upstairs, right? And at this point, I was like blacking in and out, like literally, because it was just so painful. I remember the nurse that was wheeling me up, she was really nice. Like, I do remember that. Yeah, she was like saying all this stuff. I don't know what she's saying.
I think that it was the black nurse, right?
Yeah.
Short.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the one. Well, I'll tell you guys later. That's the one that was like, ah.
Are you serious? And she's like, they're wheeling me up finally. At this point, I can't remember. Was I like screaming or like what was I doing?
You were like just in pain.
Groaning, moaning,
like,
right?
You were kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
Like you were in pain.
Yeah, it was really bad.
You were like twisting, like,
yeah.
I'm like, damn. I'm like rubbing her head and back, and I'm asking her like, is this good? And you're like, yeah. So I'm like, I can just keep doing that, get her mind off a bit.
Yeah. So we finally get up to the labor and delivery room. I'm like, okay, epidural. So we get there, they start like hooking me up, whatever. She's like, oh, we have to wait for the IV bag to finish before we can give you the epidural.
No, they were like, we have to wait for your blood pressure. Your blood pressure's too low. We have to wait for the IV bag to go down a little more so we can get you epidural. And I'm like,
we're like, wait.
I'm like, what's her blood pressure? And they point to the screen and like go across the screen. Like,
right.
I'm like,
so basically, you guys, they knew the whole time that it was too late for me to get the epidural. And I guess they just didn't want to tell me that I couldn't get it. I don't know. Also, once again, if you're a nurse,
that's what the nurse said.
If you're a nurse, please like weigh in. Like, is that common practice? Like, if somebody asks for an epidural and it's too late, do you like try to not get their hopes down by telling them it's too late and just like making things up? Because that's what they were doing. Like, I was like, epidural, and they were like, yeah, but we have to wait for this first. Epidural, they're like, yeah, but we have to wait for this first. And what's funny is like, in the back of my head, like I said earlier, I knew that I probably was too late to get it, but I just kept accepting all their excuses because I didn't want to like shut down mentally, you know, and be like, oh my God, like I have to go through this without the epidural. So every time they gave me like a whack excuse, I was like, okay, let me just wait till the IV bag finishes. Like, what?
Pushing it down a little bit, so you were like, stop doing that. I'm like, you gotta do something. Something's good. We're waiting with that mercy. He's like
trying to squeeze the IV bag into me faster.
Just like a little.
You probably have to like kind of take over the story at this point because I was in so much pain. I remember hearing something like she's complete, something like that. Yeah,
so one of the nurses was like, we have to get the doctor in because she's complete and she's trying to push because you were basically ready to push.
Because then I started saying, I need to push.
And the nurse was like, don't push. Yeah. This was like a good 15 minutes, man.
Yeah. And what I will say, you guys, for anybody that has had a epidural before, because my first pregnancy and delivery, I had an epidural. Completely different experience. Like, I got the epidural at 7 centimeters dilated, and then from that point on, I literally was like, felt no pain whatsoever. They literally had to come in and tell me to push because I never felt a sensation of having to push. Like, I felt nothing in the first delivery. And when I mean I felt nothing, like no pain. I felt no pain. This was literally so different, and I've watched so many labor and delivery vlogs now that I like recognize now, like when people say like I need to push, I have to push. It's this like instinctual, I don't know, like primal, I don't know if that's the word, like primal instinctual urge that your body just like automatically knows that it's time to push the baby out. And so I just started saying like, I have to push, like the contractions turn into the urge to push. So like he was saying, the doctor was not in there yet, and they started telling me don't push. And they weren't like, oh, like try not to push. They literally were like, don't push, like don't do it. And I didn't really know like what that meant, like, so I was just like, I'm not gonna push. Like if they're telling me with this serious of a face, like don't push, I'm like, I'm gonna not push.
She was literally trying her hardest not to push.
Yeah, because you guys, I am like a former athlete. Like it was like a competition. I was like, I'm not gonna push this baby out if that's not what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, they were like, don't push her. She was trying her hardest. Yeah. At one point, she was like, I can't stop it. I can't stop it. It's coming. Yeah. And I'm like, you could do this. You could do this. And I don't know, it just didn't feel right. Like when your body's telling you to push.
Yeah. I was legit holding the baby in, like fighting my own body's contractions to hold the baby in.
That's not safe.
Which I don't even know if that's like the right thing to do.
Yeah. So eventually the freaking doctor comes in, and within a minute of him coming in, a minute and a half, the baby's born.
Yeah, because as soon, like the only thing I remember is like him walking in. By the way, this is not the doctor that I saw my entire pregnancy either. He wasn't on call, so it was like a random doctor. Mm-hmm. He comes in, he literally like doesn't even put on, like he has no time to even put on his like cape, right? He literally just put on his gloves.
On a gown.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, I know he had gloves.
Yeah, he like put on gloves, like that was basically it, and like came straight to the table. Mm-hmm. They put my feet in the stirrups, and they were like, okay. And at that point is when they said, you're not having an epidural.
Yeah, I'm like, I was like, what about an epidural? And we both knew.
We knew. Because like, literally the baby was coming. Yeah.
And it was like, yeah, no, not happening.
Not happening.
Like, so she was like, oh.
Yeah.
It was a quiet point. I felt like the nurses were ready for us to blow up and get upset. But I was like, there's no time for that right now. And
honestly, I wasn't even like angry. I was just like sad. So I'm like, this is about to be the most painful shit of my life. Like, I'm so sad.
I just wanted to tell Candace, I was like, you know what? You don't need it. You don't need it. Let's go. That's what I told her. And she was like,
you guys, I could not have done this without him, because honestly, you did everything 100% correct.
Thanks.
Like, from the moment that we got in there, he was like answering the questions for me. He was holding my hand. He was like rubbing my back. Like, everything. You did everything like spot on. And then, yeah, like when they told me that I couldn't get the epidural, it was like basically affirming what I already had suspected for the past like 30 minutes. And then he like turned to me and he was like, you don't need it. He said, like, you don't need it.
Let's go.
And in my head, I was like,
she didn't say anything.
Zooming on my face. In my head, I was like, anyways. So, I was like joking around when I was telling my sister this story, because I was like, yeah, and then the nurses were telling me don't push. And I'm like, F you, like you don't push. You. Then they told me it was time to push, and I think I pushed her out in like 2 or 3 pushes.
It must have been like 2 pushes. Like, there was one push that you were like, push, and the doctor's like, yes, push now, and you're like, okay, and that was the last push.
Just pushed her out. I was like,
so this is where that nurse that was so nice to us, she was like, so I'm on your right side, holding your hand, and she's on my left side and like holding your legs open or something and trying to help the doctor. And the baby comes out and like some water squirts out. It looked like when your water broke water. So it looked clear.
Oh, okay.
And she goes, like it squirted.
I like blew her away.
And it definitely got her, because she was like, she took like 4 steps in like a circle. She's like, I was like, oh. And I'm like, do I need to step in for her? So I like come to the side,
I need to stop.
and the baby's out crying already, and I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
So,
All right, guys. So I know I look crazy, but I was supposed to. Basically, she's here, and I was supposed to vlog during contractions, lol. But I'll tell you guys the full birth story later. I don't want to give anything away, but
everything happened fast. My wife is a straight up G. Like, it was so impressive. Like, she was able to not push, even though it was really hard to not push, and she was able to push when she needed to push. So on her command, it was night and day, whatever needed to be done. I'll just say one thing. She gave one good push, and that's it. It was done. I saw her come out. It was like, it was amazing. I don't know what this is, but should we show the baby a little more?
Yeah.
We'll show just.
Oh, baby, I'm so. Oh my god, I'm literally so tired. So I want to disclaimer this before we go any further. Like, that was the birth story. But the next thing that we're going to say might be like a little triggering for some people. So just keep that in mind, because we found out like some unfortunate news after. Also, we didn't get to film literally any of the labor/delivery because there was just no time. Like, as you can imagine, like I said, my water broke at like 12:15 and she was delivered at 1:39. So there was literally no time for anything. But yeah, so I'm just giving you guys this point in the video if you want to keep watching or not. So she gets delivered. Everything seems to be great. You know, they go, they clean her off, they do all that stuff. I'm literally so exhausted, so tired. And then they actually had us in that room for a while because they said there weren't a lot of recovery rooms open. And then finally they tell us that we have a recovery room to go to. So they wheel us up to that recovery room. And literally as we're getting situated, like a nurse comes in and she's like, I just want to let you guys know that you tested positive for COVID. And it was honestly like such a weird, surreal thing because one, I had been fully vaccinated pregnant. I had not had COVID ever until now. And I actually had gotten COVID tested, I want to say like 2 or 3 weeks before I gave birth, and it was negative. So I had no symptoms. I was really, really shocked. I was almost like waiting for them to say like, oh, we made a mistake. It was the wrong person. So she tells us that I tested positive for COVID, because that was also another thing they did when I first got there. They did like a COVID swab. And they told us that we need to switch rooms into the COVID isolation recovery room. Basically
a contact room. So for airborne diseases, they have a room where nurses can go into their room before coming in and like suit up before coming in. So they have a mask, a face mask, and a gown, and all that stuff. Just and gloves. They have all that there so that, like, you know,
right.
If it's because it is airborne, so
right.
You know.
I feel like this is when things started taking a turn more negatively. Because for me, the first thing that I noticed was that the whole transition was very unorganized. Like, they weren't really giving us information. They were like, you guys need to bring your stuff, but then nobody came and got us.
Like right after the point that they told us we had COVID, she had COVID.
They didn't test him, by the way. They like refused to test him, even though we asked for him to be tested, and they kept him in the room with me, which to me doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Because it's like, if you didn't have COVID, why would you keep you in the room with me to get COVID? Like, so anyways, then.
So after they tell us we have COVID, they treat us like they never, like, we're not there. Like
we're like peddlers off the street.
Like, they hardly come to see us. we're like waiting all the time.
Yeah,
like whenever they bring us
I would say
food,
they were like way less friendly, way less helpful. It almost felt like whenever we requested for anything, it was like a burden, like for them to do it. Like it wasn't our fault. And
like honestly, if you weren't giving birth, maybe I'd understand. If you didn't give birth, maybe I'd understand. But we had a newborn there,
right?
And you gave birth,
right?
So we had to
stay there,
watch the baby, and we had to watch you. So I needed people to be there. So I was upset.
Yeah, and so then they tell us that they're going to COVID test the baby to see if she has COVID. But I just can't emphasize like enough how unorganized everything felt. Like no one was really telling us like what we were waiting for, like what was the next steps. We had to ask multiple times to have the baby bathed, which
they did not want to come.
They didn't even want to come in and like bathe the baby. Like it was just all wild. Like, anyways, so she was born on 1:39 a.m. on Christmas Eve. We ended up staying there until the day after Christmas because the baby did test positive for COVID. Oh, I hear her.
You're good now, baby.
The baby did test positive for COVID. She never had any symptoms, thank God. Ironically, that night that I gave birth, I had like mild symptoms. I had fever, and I developed like a little cough the next day.
Yeah, as soon as they told me that she had COVID, I was like, but I really felt bad.
Yeah.
Like, I was like,
I mean, you probably did have it. And if you didn't, you had it by the time we left because you isolated with us. Like, being there, like the next couple days, we missed Christmas with the family and everything because we were in there. And yeah, so.
There's other stuff, but.
Yeah. There's other stuff that we will probably be posting about later.
When it's all figured out.
Yeah, when it's all figured out, like not to be super cryptic, but there was something else that we found out about the delivery that was really unfortunate, and it's something that we are kind of processing and working through. But I will say, all in all, like we're very happy that we have like healthy baby girl, and you know, I'm healthy, he's healthy. But yeah, so that is kind of the birth story. Oh, and I will say that like our COVID symptoms, they just got better. Like we just hydrated a lot.
Yeah,
and
it took. That must have been the Omarion variant because they're saying it's milder and it's easier to get. So I think that's what it was, because it was like a day, 2 days, and we were good.
We definitely will be doing some follow-up videos, like I said, about everything else. But I did want to share how I had this unmedicated natural birth, even though it wasn't what I intended. But I'm happy to say that I have gone through an epidural birth and I've gone through an unmedicated natural birth. And 1 out of 10 would not recommend unmedicated natural birth. I'm gonna get so many haters in the comments right now. No, that's a lie. That's a lie, you guys. Okay, do what works for you. That's all I'm gonna say. Do what works for you, but just know that you do. I will say deep down, you know, we're made to birth babies, so you have the strength, if you have no option, to birth a baby. But I always was like, I'm not going to be a superhero. If I need an epidural, I need an epidural. But now I've kind of proven to myself that, I don't need the epidural. It's nice, but I don't need the epidural. But end of the day, no judgment zone. Do what works for you and your family. Okay?
And I like to say YouTube, cut us some slack. We said COVID a bunch. I know you don't like that, but we're not talking about anything crazy. We're just like, we got it. All right, so. All right.
Yeah. And also, guys, sorry for the lighting. We're literally filming this at like midnight because we have 2 babies now, and this is the only time that we
I feel
have.
like as soon as this goes off, this one's gonna wake up and that one's gonna be hungry, and it's gonna be a wild situation.
Yeah. All right. Well.
Oh, by the way, these are shorts. These are not underwear. So stop looking at me
Nobody
funny.
thought they were
Stop
underwear.
looking at me funny. That person. That
Oh my
person.
God, it's time to go. All right, you guys. Thanks so much for watching this video. Please be sure to consider subscribing to my channel.
There we go.
Give this video a like,
There we go.
thumbs up, and hit the notification bell for the next video.
Like
Good
that.
night.